Hello and welcome to Elvenhome, to I think number 15 of the, let's see if I can stop the train, there we go, to number 15 of the videos that I've been doing. And first of all, it's a happy birthday to Elvenhome. It's a year ago just about since I first uploaded a video as the first of the series for the building of my model railway. And I'll just about here put in a picture that's taken as a still shot from that very first shaky video that was done on my DSLR camera, showing the space into which what you now see in front of you has gone. And it's been quite an interesting thing just looking back at that first video about how far things have come. You often think when you're building a layout that you've done nothing. But actually, considering where I was a year ago and also how much I know now, certainly about things like wiring and the rest, it's quite incredible. And I was just looking at what's gone on with Elvenhome. In a year, I've put up 14 videos. I now have 331 subscribers, and welcome to any new subscribers that have come on in the last month. It's good to have you here. There's been over 16,000 views. Those of you that do YouTube will know the analytics can tell you all sorts of interesting things. Largely men watch this, some women, hello women, and most of them are probably around my age or sort of over 40. Though there are some youngsters, and to the younger ones of you, welcome to you too. What I propose to do is just bring you up to date with what I've done in the last month, and just give you an idea of what's planned for the next month. As you can see from what's in front of you, there has been work done. I completed the station as you saw in the last video, and as you can probably see, there is some wall in the background, and we'll take a closer look at that a bit later, because I had some very particular requirements. If I try and come out, no, I normally go the wrong way. There you go. Right, okay. What we have is a 6-foot run of wall which I want to hide the incline as it goes up. And the first 4 foot of that incline, from where the wall starts at the far right there till just about there, and I'll come back in and you'll see, there we go, is at a 2% gradient. But then in order to get me to the height that I wanted in the distance, I then put in a 4% gradient. So what I've done is to do sections of wall that are 3 inches long initially, going up at 1/8 of an inch each section. And then the last bit, the 4%, needs to go up at 1.5 inch, also by 1/8 of an inch. And I'll take a look at those at the end. I'll take them off and we'll go onto the table to show you how I've built that wall. But it's amazing the difference that it makes, actually. When you go in, as I did there, if we get rid of it completely, the station really starts coming to life, I think, once it's got a wall behind it and not just the white expanded polystyrene of the incline. And I think the station looks pretty good there. I also I've got a mock-up of how I'm going to have the lights and the running in boards, which I'll show you a bit later. But as you could probably guess, when I went out, the line is in some disarray. The permanent way gang have been in, and there's still not the ability to do a circuit, but quite a lot done really. Work does require me to go to work each day, which is limiting how much I can do, but only another couple of months and I'm retired, and then we can really start moving on. But as you may be able to remember, the incline is now painted, at least those bits that will be visible, and that's been painted all the way round to the top over there. Been a bit heavy-handed in places with the paintbrush. Fortunately, that can be covered by trees or bushes or something. And in any event, I want on the incline as it goes up along that back wall there, I want to have an embankment coming up from the line. So some more shaper sheet has been bought, and the mix to cover the shaper sheet as well. Having seen it used by Simon Shed and also by, it will come back to me. It looks quite good stuff, that you can fold the shaper sheet into shape. My God, that's the thing to say on a Sunday morning. And then in addition, you cover it in this plastic plaster of Paris mix, and it goes rock hard, but it's very light, and so I'm really looking forward to being able to use that, and that will allow me to shape that embankment as it goes up, and also put the 2 stations that will be there. Grey Havens, which is going to be on the curve, somewhere around here on the curve, possibly at the bottom of that straight, because the trains are moving up and round the curve, and I don't really want to stop a train on an incline and a curve. And then of course Sharkey's End, which is the station that will be at the edge here just before the bridge, where I've already realised that's where Sharkey jumped off at least the myth has it that Sharkey jumped off there in the mid-1700s, and his ghost sort of inhabits that's why it's known as Sharkey's End. So that's where we've got to with the scenics, because I am actually starting to do the scenic stuff. That's what all the wall is about. And in front here, as you can probably see by the mess of wires, are all the point motors that need installing. I've spent all the time wiring up the point motors. There they are sitting on top, waiting to be fixed underneath. And that's probably the thing for next weekend, which is there's a local holiday in Edinburgh, and I get a day off, hurrah, on the Monday. So I'm going to have a long weekend, and some of that will be spent putting this in. As you may recall, this board here, on which those are all sitting, comes off, and it was deliberately done that way so I could do the wiring underneath. But quite interestingly, when I took the board off and set it up on its end and went out the room, when I came back it started to bow quite significantly, and I realised that my clever idea of not putting bracing in the centre wasn't so clever after all, because it just made the thing bow. And so a quick trip to B&Q to get some more wood to act as bracing, and that's the thing that has the little holes drilled in it that's been added both sides. There's another board gone in on the other side, but I'd originally intended with these point motors that they would be secured to chop blocks underneath the board, and then wires would come up from underneath the baseboard into the chop blocks, and that's how they would all get their power. But putting this extra bracing bit in made me I began to think that actually there might be a better way to do it, which would avoid drilling lots of holes in the baseboard with wires going down, because that will make it difficult. If I have to get in to do a point motor, unless I do very long wire, it'd be quite difficult to lift this board up. And ideally I would like all the wiring to be attached to the board itself and not going down through the baseboard. And it suddenly dawned on me that actually the new bracing piece could achieve that, and also help me identify precisely which wires are going off to which point. And the number of holes that are drilled there is equal, as you may expect, to the number of point motors that are there. Well, actually, it's one less, because 2 of the point motors is wired into one switch, because they're facing points, and they would have both switched together, as I've done earlier. And the beauty of this is that I will then know precisely which wire is going from the switches and up into the baseboard, and to which set of points it's going, because I will number each of these things. And this is where the mimic panel will sit, coming down onto the switches for the points. So they'll all be covered in, and what will happen now is these wires will come through the baseboard there and then go straight down behind the switches to the chop blocks, which is where the bird's nest of wiring underneath is at the moment, and can be wired straight in. So I think that one will give me shorter runs of wires, but also far neater wiring, because just with the few I've done, as you can see from the mass of wires that are underneath, those all need tidying up and tying back. But just at the moment it's been a case of getting things to work for the ones that have been wired in. So quite a lot of soldering. My soldering is getting better by the day. The 2 centre blocks of switches there, I just come in on them, these ones here, they have yet to be wired up and put in place, and those are the holes for the wires to go through to do that. So that's got to be done. But all the other switches that are to the left and to the right are all wired in. So this is all sort of coming along in the right sort of way. And as I said, the main thing now is to fit all these point motors and get them working, because once I've done that, I will also then need to put in all the power feeds to the track that is here, which is underneath all those points, so you can't really see it. Which will mean I've got to finish laying all the track down, because there's a double slip at the top. Let's see if I can come into it. There we go. That double slip at the top there has two lines coming off it. One of them is going to go to the coaling tower, which I've shown you in a previous video, and another is just a siding. And then on the left-hand side, the spare line goes away to the turntable, which is missing at the moment because that needs wiring in too. So I want to be completely finished with all the wiring on this board, but it's increasingly looking as though that should be more straightforward than I feared it might be, because the power bus is already there. The power bus is the blue line here coming out. There we go. The blue and brown lines coming out there is the power bus for to put power into the track, and then I have a separate feed for the point motors. So that, I think, is pretty much an update of where we are on the railway. What I propose to do just for the last bit of this video, which is going to be, I hope, a bit shorter than the last one, is just give you a closer look at how I'm building that wall, and in particular the black foam board that I managed to get from Amazon. So I'll come back in just a moment and we'll do that, and I'll see you in just a bit. Hello and welcome back. As I said in the earlier section, this bit is really just talking a little bit about how I'm building the wall that will be the retaining wall. I'll also just going to give you a look at a mock-up of how the running in boards and the lights will sit at the end of each platform, and that will be it for this month. I had thought about using the Metcalfe retaining walls, and this is one section of a retaining wall. You get 4 of these in a kit. And they're very good, as all Metcalfe kits are, very good. It's really realistic, particularly once it's weathered down. I think it will look fantastic. But my problem is that I'm not putting a retaining wall against a standard height. As I mentioned earlier, it's a 6-foot length over which I need to put a retaining wall. And the grade for 4 foot of that goes up at 2%. And then for 2 foot of it, it goes up at 4%. So in building my wall, I realised it had to be stepped, but obviously where it moves into a sharper incline, you need to actually have smaller sections so that the train doesn't appear above the wall, and the wall sort of isn't the right height, or is too deep at one point. So I worked out that actually for 4 foot of the length, I have 3-inch lengths of wall, and that each length of wall raises by 1/8 of an inch, because that's equal to the level of the incline. And then all you need to do is, when you get to the 4% incline, you just halve the lengths of the wall, and that way you keep a nice step of 1/8 of an inch, but also stepping faster, if you like, as you get to the higher point. But I was struggling with what to use for my wall to get the width that I wanted, because as you'll see with this, if I turn it this way up, this is made with sections of triangle fillers which give the depth, and then otherwise it's just quite heavy base card which creates the wall, and then the papers over the front. And you do need to have something that looks sufficiently substantial. And I'd seen somebody on one of the videos using foam board, A4 foam board, and so I went up to Ryman's to look, and it was pretty expensive there, from sort of about 20, I can't remember what it was exactly, but not many sheets for quite a bit of money. So I came back and had a look at Amazon, who were doing this black foam board, which I liked very much, because most of it is white, and actually I just thought it'd be easier if you were modelling in black than white, because usually black's an easier colour you don't have so much problems with it showing through paper and the rest. And Amazon had them, 20 sheets for £15, and it told me this was a Sunday lunchtime. that if I ordered in the next 5 minutes, I could have it by 6 o'clock that evening. So I thought, well, let's put you to the test, Amazon, and blow me down. They did exactly what they said. Just about 6:30 that evening, a man knocked on the door, and there was my box of plasterboard. And as it was a bank holiday weekend, it meant I could get on actually building the wall. But this is very good stuff. It's 5mm for the foam board itself, but the paper covering, or the card covering outside, makes it 6mm overall. Now for most things that extra millimetre doesn't matter, but at end gauge it can matter, but actually it's not a problem. But it's a nice thickness, it's good to use. I can see me using it for modelling quite a few things actually. If I decide to scratch build any buildings, I think I would probably do it out of this stuff, because it's really good to work. And you just use an ordinary craft knife to cut it. You need to do several strokes through, but it cuts very, very well. So as I said, I've got 4-foot sections, a 4-foot section which has several 3-inch parts moving at 1/8 of an inch, and you'll see there, this is the first 2 sections, and all that is the foam board with some Metcalf papers cut and wrapped around it. The back doesn't need to go all the way down to the bottom, because of course the incline is going up through here, so that we don't need to use quite so much paper on the back. And then when I get to the 4-foot section, that's when you get, and this is a completed section now, those are 1.5 inch, but still rising by 1/8 of an inch, because that still keeps us the right rate. And as you'll see from this, these have got the capping stones on the top as well, and the buttresses fitted. The capping stones gave me some worry for a while. I found some plasticard pavement strips which looked a bit like the capping, but it was exactly the same width as the wall, and it just didn't look quite right. But as I was looking through the various bits and pieces, I came across this channeling, which is 6mm gap in here for the channeling, so it sits beautifully on top of the wall, as you can see, and I thought that would look much better. The only problem is that it's white, and it, even if I painted it grey, it would look okay, but it would still look like one long slab, which would, over the length of section we're talking there, would be almost impossible to lift. So you've got to try and do something to cover it. So I had a look around on the internet at various companies that do various papers, and came up with this one. I'll see if I can get it close. That's Smart Model's brown stone wall capping, which seemed to me just to be the very thing. The only problem, as you'll see there, is that is really rather narrow. And this isn't. I mean, this would go across 2 of those, which really wouldn't make much use. But I've found generally with downloading this sort of stuff, whether it's just my printer, is that quite often you need to increase the scale at which you print things out to get it accurate for end gauge, because that's very narrow for a wall capping. So when I increased it to 500%, that's what you get. And that's just brilliant. At 500%, it still gives me what I want. It gives a nice amount for wrapping around and fitting underneath. And that's how these pieces, oops, careful, don't want to break this. That's how these pieces have been done. You just wrap the paper, make it obviously long enough. It wraps round and underneath, the ends go in, and then it fits quite nicely on top of the wall. And each wall piece is then stuck to its neighbour, and the buttresses are put over the top. Let me just come in a bit more. The buttresses are put over the top, and the buttresses are nothing more than card used from offcuts of card from Metcalf kits. In fact, it's the kits this is the what's left over from the kits to build the canopies, and this section here has been the one that's made all of these. Is used to form and keep straight the canopy as you're building it. But it's exactly 2mm wide, and I need each of the buttresses to be 1mm wide. So very handily I cut these to the right height and then split them down the centre, and lo and behold I've got a double thickness then of this card. which is then just wrapped with Metcalf paper and stuck over the join, so you can't actually see the join, as they say. And I've discovered, one thing I did discover though, was that initially I was building the buttress exactly the right height for the smallest piece of wall, but that doesn't give any room for the capping then to sit, because the channel obviously sits either side. So the buttresses now are 1/8 of an inch shorter than the shortest piece of wall, and that gives the room for the capping to sit on it quite nicely then. That's worked quite well. I've been quite pleased with that. That's come out all right. But it just shows you don't throw anything away ever, because you never know when it will come in handy. So more of this card will be cannibalised. I've got several pieces there, which will be more than enough for all the things I've got to do. And I've got more in the drawer. But it's amazing how often you go back to a Metcalf kit and use of something that you didn't need in the kit itself. Quite often there's doors or windows or one thing or another. So my advice to you is do not throw anything away once you've finished with a Metcalf kit, because you never know when you may be able to use it for something else. So that's the next thing, is just to carry on doing all my bits of wall. I've got quite a lot of pieces to do just yet. There's about 14 or 15 more of these to be done, and I've got several sections of this which will all be cut and put on. And that will then allow the wall to be permanently fixed. That will allow the track to be ballasted over the far side. And then I can permanently put in place the station and fit it with lights and one thing or another. And just as a final thing, this is a mock-up of what it will look like on the station platform. This is one of the lights that I got from Kite's Lights. If I go that side, you see it's a double pendant 1930s, 40s design really. And that's how I intend it to sit. If I go this side, it will sit with the running boards either side, and there'll be a set of these at each end of the platform. And the boundary is just old matchsticks. I saw a bag of matchsticks for £2.50 in the muddle shop and thought, I know what I can use those for. I've now got thousands of matchsticks, and I only need 3, I think, to build that. Sorry, 6 to build that. It's going to be painted, of course. That's not the final colour for it, because it needs to be painted much darker. I think a dark brown would work well there. And then when that, I can fit the running boards to each side of the matchsticks rather than stick them into the platform, and probably find some way of filling then and maybe having flowers underneath, because I think that might look quite nice. But I think when the lights are working and the station is meant to be at night, the lights just lighting up the station name will look quite good. So that's quite encouraging, and those look really rather good, so I'm looking forward to getting those working, which means yet another power source, because the lights will work off a 12 volt DC source, whereas the point motors are working off of a 24 volt source, I think. And of course the main layout is DCC. So I think that's about everything. Speak to you again probably middle of June. Hopefully by then I'll have everything wired in, I'll have the station done. And who knows, the castle may even have arrived. As you will have heard me say in the last one, I'm waiting for Nunney Castle to arrive in the UK and to get to me, which is the sound castle engine from Graham Farish, the first steam sound engine, or fitted with sound when it arrives. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, and I would really like to be able to run that round the layout properly once it arrives. So have a good time over the next month. If you're doing your own modelling, good luck with that. If you've liked the video, please like and subscribe. And I look forward to speaking to you again in about a month's time. Bye bye.